Code Enforcement and Nuisance Board. First thing I'd like to do is have a roll call.
Deere,
Yes.
Dearbone,
Yes.
Holman,
Yes.
LaPointe,
Yes.
Harmon.
All right. For an agenda announcement, case number 5, 1541 North Sunrise will not actually be heard this afternoon. We are going to move it to our November hearing. And with that, I will ask for an approval of the minutes for the September 27th meeting.
I move to approve the minutes of the September 20th, 27th meeting.
Second?
Deere and LaPointe, roll call.
Deere,
Yes.
Dearbone,
Abstain.
Holman,
Yes.
LaPointe,
Yes.
Harmon.
Yes.
Now if the staff will stand for swearing in. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? All right, thank you. We will now move on to our hearing agenda. Our first case is an appeal, case number 1, case number 2022-3622, citation 2022-6613.19, 1349 Adams Street, owner Top Best Ever LLC, respondent John W. Ridley, officer Heather Lashley.
Good evening, everyone. This case was the result of a proactive inspection on May the 23rd, 2022. During the inspection, the following violations were observed: windows, skylight, and door frames, glazing, and graffiti. A notice of violation was sent to the PVA listed owner and address on that date with a compliance reinspection date of June 22nd, 2022. On June 23rd, 2022 and June 30th, 2022, the property was re-inspected and remained in violation. On July 5th, 2022, the property was re-inspected and remained in violation. I called and spoke to Mr. Ridley, and I confirmed he received the notice of violation. I asked him if he would be able to have someone paint over the graffiti on the back of the building. He stated he understood something needed to be done. He advised he installed cameras in the past, but whatever he does won't keep the graffiti from being an ongoing problem. He stated he had an issue that the city won't mow the tall grass behind the building beside the railroad tracks. He stated people hide behind the tall grass and will create their graffiti again, and there isn't anything he can do about it. I explained CSX is responsible for mowing that area of grass. He asked if there are any city neighborhood grants to help pay for the graffiti removal. He then asked me if Brent Childers is over at NCS, and I told him that he is. He stated he would call Brent to see if there's any assistance available and to discuss with him. On July 11, 2022, the property was re-inspected and remained in violation. I called Mr. Ridley to get an update on his plans for removing the graffiti. He stated he left a message on Brent Childers' work voicemail and was waiting still to hear back from him. He told me he called Porter Paint for a quote on material for graffiti removal and paint. I recommended he could contact volunteer groups to see if he could get help with the work on the building. He stated he would likely do it himself when he finds the time. On July 18th, July 28th, August 4th, August 11th, August 16th, August 25th, September 1st, September 8th, and September 15th, the property was re-inspected and remained in violation. On August 29th, I tried to call Mr. Ridley as the code violations remained on the property. He didn't answer, but I left a message and asked him to please return my call. On September 23rd, the property was re-inspected and remained in violation. A citation was issued and posted on the property, as well as sent by first class and certified mail to the PVA listed owner and address. The compliance reinspection date listed on the citation was October 3rd, 2022, which has since been postponed due to the filed appeal. This case has been open for 154 days and remains in violation.
Here to speak on this case, respondent, Mr. Ridley? Yes, sir. Let me swear you in. Okay. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, if you'll state your name, and then you can go ahead.
John Ridley, and I own this property under my LLC, Top Best Ever LLC, as well as other real estate in Bowling Green. If I may, I don't know whether I go to Heather, but I have some copies of some things I'd like to share with the board. I think there's 11 copies and the staff can have one as well. Just like a school teacher, please don't open your test papers until I get to it, because my presentation is kind of predicated on what you're going to see here. I think if I was sitting in your spot, I would listen to your staff and say 128 days is a long time to keep something in violation. I'd also say that 40 years of ill repair on a building is a long time, and compared to 128 days, I don't think that's much at all. Between the time that Heather had, and your staff has done a good job, they've interpreted the rules, which I don't really agree with for a couple of reasons. I'm not responsible for graffiti on my real estate. I didn't do it. I didn't have anything to do with it. I have taken thousands of dollars and put into an entire city block that was in horrible situation for 40 years. Now, I've been in Bowling Green more than that, but I've driven by that because it's on one of the busiest streets in Bowling Green. So I saw an opportunity. Oh, by the way, I would like to point out, this is the only piece of real estate on the west side of Adams Street that appears in the TIF district. And isn't it strange that all over town we promote the TIF and how wonderful it is, and when a private citizen puts his own capital to improve something, he stands before you all because of some violation on something that he has nothing to do with. Only trying to enhance the property, I'm being penalized, in my opinion, that others have damaged my real estate. So I'd like to bring your attention to the photographs. They are in a series of 10 photographs. The first photograph that you'll look as you go through is dated May of 2018. So the first photograph is exactly what that property looked like on Adams Street as you approached it in May of 2018. If you flip the page, that's what the property looks like today, this afternoon. Now, why are code enforcement, I'm sure somebody's going to say something, I've got a parking lot, but the reason that is I have donated, at Heather's suggestion, to get a social group to paint it. Now, I can pay to have it painted. That's not an issue with me. I have the finances, I've got the money, I've spent thousands, tens of thousands on this block, this city block. I want to emphasize that. It's not a building, it's the entire city block, bordered between 13th Street and 14th, Adams, and the railroad track. But I'm donating that for one of the sororities and fraternities at WKU, which I'm a big supporter of WKU and scholarship there. And they're building their homecoming float not far from campus. So that's the reason all those cars are there. I could have taken it a couple of days ago when the sun was shining, but I wanted to get the most accurate photograph. So my point in this, and I'm going to go through all those pictures because it won't take long. This address is 1349 Adams, but the entire block I call the Honeycrust block. And the reason I do that is this was an economic development project in 1936. I was able to locate the original blueprints in the Kentucky Museum by the architect James Ingram, and it's the original pencil drawings. So I have the whole thing from the utilities to the, and so as I said, I use those as a way to try to improve something. Most people would look at it and say just tear it down. It's a very large building, and in 1936 it was an economic development because it was right after the Depression of 1929 through 32. And as an economic development, the bakery, I don't know if you all really want to get into this, but there wasn't sliced bread. Everybody baked their own bread prior to the Depression. And the Louisville Baking Company came down here and opened this. They hired all local employees. They had used as much local material as possible. And that was an old eyesore in 1936. It was a coal yard because it was right next to and all this can be verified. Once again, I sort of tell the truth. The point in that is that somebody in 1936 had an idea of how can you improve an eyesore to get it to a point where it would be an economic development. Well, gentlemen and ladies, that's exactly what I've done. And I'm being penalized by coming and taking my time and my capital to come before you to plead something that shouldn't even be. Now, the citations calls for graffiti. Well, this afternoon, you can see in the current state of the property, the entire back has been painted. You know what I've done? I've made a marvelous easel for a bunch of hoodlums to come and do it again. Now, on the back of this building, I invested, again, my own capital to put security cameras. There were none. There were none at all. I've got it all the way around the building. I have video surveillance in there. Unfortunately, it's very difficult to do that. When I bought this property, there was a homeless camp there. Drugs, needles. In fact, I have police reports where they have arrested thefts, and one of them was robbing a convenience store not far away, and the encampment was right on my real estate. So what I've done, our new city manager, who I respect quite well, is out and was published in the paper of cleaning up homeless camps. Well, that's using city money. I use my money, and I did a favor to the community to do that to improve an eyesore. If you'll turn to the next picture, that's page number 3. I want you to look exactly what I'm talking about, an eyesore. There was rotted, there were rat infested, there was garbage everywhere. And if you'll turn to the next picture, that's what it looks like today. Green grass, contract mowing, looks great all the time. Next picture is another one showing more garbage. There was a chain link fence and that needed to be removed. Look at the page number 6. And if you'd like, I'd like for you to tear this apart and lay them side by side to see. Now, folks, this doesn't happen overnight. This is a lot of sweat equity that you put into it. And my challenge with you all is this. Why would anybody, if the TIF district is to bring new businesses and use other people's capital, why would you take somebody that has done such a great job, in my opinion, of improving an eyesore in the city of Bowling Green and call them before this board because of minor violations? I think that's ridiculous. If you look at number 7, once again, right on the street, flip to number 8. Flip to number 9, that's the one where all the graffiti was. You know why? Because it had graffiti on it till it was overgrown with vegetation, and there was encampments of homeless people in and behind that vegetation. Then turn to the last page, and that's what it looks like today. Now, even if it looked like there was stuff up and down there, it still looks a whole lot better than it did for 40 years. Of the windows that are broken, there are in excess of 3,000 panes of glass in there. I myself have spent hours replacing that, to the point where I just couldn't do it anymore for my own personal time, because I can do better doing other things. So I hired a window restorationist, same guy that restored every window in the Pushing building. By the way, that's another thing that rubs me wrong. I spent $125,000 on the Pushing building restoring every window in there, and I get a citation when I was doing it from the Code Enforcement Board because there was a piece of plywood in there. Well, folks, we need to use a little judgment when this goes on. The plywood is to keep the rain out until we could get the pane of glass put back in there. But I get a citation. So once again, we need to think about what exactly we're citing people. But of the 3,000 panes of glass, only about 750 to 1,000, I'm ranging, you can see from the street. The rest of it is on the back side in number 10. Well, if you look at number 10, that has metal screens all over it. So even visibly, you can't see if there's a broken window. But in that section, there are 35. 35. I'd have to have somebody over there all the time, every day inspecting it, because that area, they throw rocks through my windows. So if I repaired every window in there today, I'd be right back in front of you because people are throwing windows. Once again, I have nothing to do with it. I'm using my capital to try to improve this real estate. So with that, I'd like to close and say that this is where the buck stops. When a developer and a person puts their own capital into something to improve it, and we're called in here over minor violations, I think it is ridiculous because it removes every bit of the incentive of me putting $250,000 in a piece of real estate. And I did it for one reason, to improve it and to sell it. Why would you do that when you're going to be penalized every time that somebody throws a rock through your window? Now, of those windows, as I said, they're just panes. It's not like the whole side of the building's out. But my fear is I'll spend $125,000 on another building and we'll put plywood up so I can repair the window and I'm going to get a citation. So I think this is very arbitrary and, quite frankly, ambiguous that the way these rules are applied when you don't look at the property owner. And by the way, as Heather mentioned, and the excuse is that, oh, well, it's okay that the weeds grow up and it's CSX, but if it's a private citizen, we got to mow it down. 3 years ago, I was before this board because I had a violation on Chestnut Street on 2 pieces of property. Once again, an eyesore. I cleaned it all up, and I got a contract mower, and I got a citation because the natural daylilies in the ground cover got over your 18-inch border. So what did I do? I said, look, these are flowers. It doesn't matter. It's over the rule, and the neighbors are complaining you got to mow them down. So right before they bloom, I just mowed them all down. Well, I gave that property to the university, and you know why I did? Not only am I I have a philanthropic interest for the university, but I was tired of and I was going to do an infill development there. That was had it all drawn out and ready to go, but I'm not going to fight stuff on minor details. Now, nowadays, if you'll go on the corner of the bypass and the roundabout, there are wildflowers that literally are 42 inches tall. Nobody's calling and telling them to mow those down. So why is it that a private citizen that puts their money into something, not asking the city for assistance, gets penalized for doing a good job? I rest my case.
All right. So one question that I have, so you'd said according to Heather's report that you had reached out to Mr. Childers. Did you ever hear from him? Did you ever get a chance to talk to him?
Oh, and the reason I know this for a fact, the other real estate that I've got, they had neighborhood grants, even to the point where a property owner could get, now it was a cost share. I mean, you had to put some skin in the game to get the benefit. But I had a piece of real estate that needed a new driveway, and there was like $2,000, and the driveway was like $6,500. Well, I paved it myself, put my capital in it, and I got a rebate. Now, any neighbor could do that. I wasn't privileged to that. But I know that through areas, and that area of town, those grants have moved throughout the community. And so my question to Heather is there happen to be something that we can get assistance? When I called that originally, and I don't know if you all are really appreciative of this, but I'm telling you, for an independent business person that's putting their own capital into their projects, it isn't really easy to get a lot of stuff done, particularly by something like that. You either get a poor job, or you put a lot of money into it, or you got to do it yourself. And so I have a farm out on the west part of town, and this year has been trying to the tornado went right through the middle of my farm. Thank God I had no personal damage, but it was a mess. So my efforts were on the immediate to get my pastures back in order so I can have cattle on them. Well, that building, because it was graffiti for the last 40 years, I thought, well, what the heck? I mean, nobody cared about it before it was cleaned up. I cleaned it up, and then I get the citation. So Childress, no, I never heard from him. And maybe it was the answer was. And he's a great guy because I communicate him on other projects. He actually is doing a really great job, too, by the way. Any other questions? Sure.
Mr. Ridley, is this building occupied at the present time?
It is.
It is, okay.
It actually, I have a contract to sell it. I have a contract to sell.
So,
Can I make a comment about that?
obviously, you've done a nice job of cleaning up that area. I mean, I commend you for that.
Thank you.
What group is in there, if you don't mind me asking?
DJ Construction, they store materials in there. They do subcontracting from WKU, so it was a closed place. The VFW they've got a lot of space. I rented to them at a very nominal price, and they've used items that have been sent by different organizations for the tornado rescue, so they come and go from time to time. Jonathan Sauer is the guy that did the window restoration. He has a shop in there, and then I've released it to several people to put vintage automobiles and store that kind of stuff. My ambition was not to turn it back into a warehouse. My ambition was to turn it into something else. But I don't want to develop it.
Is it still in the TIF?
Yes.
It is.
Yes, it's the only triangle, or it's the only real estate on that side of Adams Street that I'm aware of that is in the TIF. Okay. Now, you walk across the street, and it's Western and, all those great things, and so, anyway. But I currently have a contract. The only contingency right now, I had a phase 1 study, by the way, thank the city for this. I was approached because nobody would take the brownfield project on. I don't know if y'all know what that was, but that was in some of these areas that were blighted and had industrial waste on them, and so they wanted somebody to be the guinea pig. So I got a call from the city and said, look, that was an industry at one time. Would you volunteer your real estate? Well, they couldn't get anybody to do it because of the risk. Well, the risk is nothing if the city's paying the bill. It was if they found something. Well, I'd already found out there wasn't anything there. So I got a clean bill of health on the phase 1 environmental study. Once again, trying to think of what would be best for the community and what would be best for the property. And that came through. The only thing that's hanging up now is the group that is financing it wanted a phase 2. Well, that's like pulling teeth to get done. So that was 4 months ago. And I had been told by the contractor that, you know, he's going to fix, it was going to be as is, so he was going to do all the painting and the fixing and doing all that, so.
And
What can be done about the graffiti? That's the big question.
Amen.
I mean, if you hadn't have cleaned it up back there, you wouldn't have graffiti.
Exactly. Thank you.
So I'm trying to bring again, a common sense approach. What can be done for that? That's the big question.
You know, I've done a little research on this. You know, the statute, and I laid my papers down. The statute said something about, you know, it's unwanted painting on the side of a building that is viewed by the public and so forth. Well, if you drive down Chestnut Street, there is a strange-looking rendition of the water tank on Hospital Hill, or Reservoir Hill, I guess, whichever you want to do it. Well, some people call that art. I don't really like it. I like the artist. She's nice. She does lots of work. I just don't care for it in downtown Bowling Green. Well, that's just my opinion. You go down another block, Public Theater has got a great big symbol painted on it, and I couldn't even tell you what the symbol is. It kind of looks like a flame, but it doesn't. Well, my point is the city has just spent $4 or $5 million to attract people downtown, but ambiguous and arbitrary. It's not art on my building, and it's art somewhere else. And so we've got to tighten up some of these rules. The other thing in the statute, it says at least one, and now think about this a second, 3,000 panes of glass. I could stay in violation for the rest of my life by it saying at least one pane of glass broken. Now, Heather's been very cooperative. She's going by the rules. But the buck's got to stop here. It's either got to be fixed, changed, give them the flexibility. Now, they've got folks that ignore them all the time. I haven't been. I just couldn't get it fixed. So I guess if I'd shut everything down and got it done, but I mean, like I said, I think it's kind of ridiculous that you take a property owner that's improved a piece of real estate to this degree, and I appreciate your comments, but it wasn't just okay. I mean, it was a mess. And I've added value to an entire neighborhood inside of town, and I'm in here pleading my case. So I'm not asking for your sympathy or empathy. I'm trying to be a citizen that can do something for the next guy or the lady.
So what's the plan now? I mean, what are you looking at doing now?
I'm not gonna do anything else.
Nothing.
So, because I'll pay my fine, and next time you'll sign me another, I don't know, there's like an escalation clause, and then eventually, when I get the fine paid off, I'll sell the real estate. Now, if there's an encumbrance on it, I'll come back in here, I'll plead my case, try to get you all to do. But once again, you know, we spend millions of dollars changing and doing all this TIF stuff, and you get a private citizen that's in the TIF district, and I'm in here doing this. I mean, to me, it makes no sense. And I hate conflict. I hate it. But in fact, I called Heather today and I said, I'm not coming. I'm just going to pay the fine and move on. Because I've painted the back, and then I'll wait to get the next citation, and I'll do something else. But see, there's no incentive to continue this process of putting my capital in this monstrosity when you can't get ahead of the game.
So on page 10, what side of the building is that compared to the photos you have up here? Is
Page
it
10
any of
is
them?
what would be the west side next to the railroad tracks.
Do any of the pictures on the screen right now match it?
The only one would be, it's
first
the reverse of the first one on the left, and it's exactly the one, but a shorter piece. So
there's
if you
no
look
graffiti
at
on the
that,
building
and you
now?
look at that number 10, you'll not see any, and then, of course, there's no graffiti. The only graffiti left on the back is that overhead door is that giant square. By the way, when I bought the building, that was an entire broken-out section, and I bought an industrial overhead door to put in there, and that's a baked-on enamel door that you don't have to ever paint again, and that's what happens to it. And now I'm not going to put some kind of paint on it that's going to destroy the opportunity. So I've got to figure out how it can be spray painted or a body, we get an automotive paint or something to fix it.
Yes, Mr. Ridley has had the back painted. The only graffiti remaining on the back is on the door. On the side of the building, there's some faint graffiti, and then there's some graffiti on the front.
I know you said you weren't gonna do anything else with this, but if you
Well,
do.
can I see what you guys are doing?
Well, I was gonna tell you, if you do change your mind, I do know there is a company here in town that removes that. They did it downtown when all that got graffitied next to Daily News.
Appreciate that referral.
So, and I think they're right next to you.
So is the city going to help me because I didn't put it on there? That's my point. And everybody just kind of keeps going around and throwing it back to the property owner. There either needs to be more money put into the policing of these areas. I mean, because I've done everything. Heather said, well, why don't you put a fence up? Well, that's not going to stop anybody. It's got steel plates all over every window. And besides, CSX their property line is literally at the foundation of that, and that's the way they did it in 1936. So, I mean, I'm just kind of, I'm at your all's disposal, and like I said, the buck stops here. I could keep doing this for years, and once I sell the building, I mean, there's going to be somebody else in here that's going to be approached it. So, to me, it falls, the graffiti issue is not a property owner issue. It is a government issue that there is not regulations, control, investigation, prosecution, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Lawyer. Prosecution on those that are violating the law. I'm not violating the law. I happen to be violating a statute that is created, as I said, is ambiguous and arbitrary. So that's where I'm going with this. And only somebody that has the guts to stand up here and tell you all this is you all just let it go. I mean, nobody cares because the administrators look at a list, they write out a citation, they send it. A lot of people never come and spend the time to talk to you all about it and how can we improve this situation and the community at whole.
Now, Mr. Ridley, I can definitely appreciate what you're saying, and having looked at this, you've done a whole lot of work, and, you know, I applaud you for that, and even taking the time to come in, even though you said at first you weren't going to do it. But having been on this board for a while, one thing that I've come to learn is that when somebody buys a piece of property, no matter what the property is, no matter where it's located, the moment they buy the property, they are now responsible for any and everything that is wrong with the property. And correct me if I'm wrong, it becomes your responsibility. And you've done, like I said, you've done a great job with what you have done with this. And I do think there needs to be some sort of conversation about, in a circumstance like this being as extenuating as it is, what happens to the graffiti that you did not put up there and could eventually happen again by anybody at any random time. So there does need to be a conversation about that. But for me, it does come back to, you know, he said there's a referral or somewhere you could maybe get it done. But ultimately, it does come back on the property owner.
I understand
That's
that.
where I'm at with it.
I'm not ignoring my responsibility. I think if somebody was ignoring the responsibility of a nice building, it should have been the person that owned it before me. You know, I bought it just like that, knowing I was going to have to do all this. But I didn't know that I was going to put that much effort into something to come down here after I've done massive improvements and be cited for graffiti that I didn't put on the wall. I mean, I was doing nothing but to enhance it. I'm not trying to say it's not my real estate and it's not my responsibility. I put $250,000 in this building, and of that was to save the building. Brand new roof on both of them. The little white house on the end is the Honeycrust building. It was built specifically for the 300 employees that the Honeycrust Bakery had to have wedding receptions, baby showers, bridge parties, whatever. I gutted the whole thing, fixed it, and now it looks just like it did in 36. You know, that's what I'm saying to you all. Where is the incentive, unless it's nothing but just the dollar, of a citizen wanting to improve the town they live in? Because I'm down here wasting my time and my capital as well. So I just think something else needs to be done. Now, when I said I'm not gonna do anything else, I'm gonna do the last part there, even if it's the wrong thing to do, because I'm gonna paint over it. But I just didn't have that color. If you also noticed, I didn't put white paint on this. I tried to buy the paint in a color that would be attractive to the backside of the building. But I guarantee you, even with security lights, I'm gonna be back down here, because Heather's gonna call me, and she said, next Saturday, or after homecoming, or after this entertainment district really gets kicking and people get drunk and run up there, I mean, it's gonna happen. And you all are gonna say, you're gonna say, well, John, it's the property owner's responsibility. Why? Why is it my responsibility that a criminal has put something on my building? It ought to be the responsibility of the government to police, figure out how to correct, and make it a priority if this is really an eyesore.
Mr. Ridley, I've got a couple questions real quick.
Sure.
I assume your potential purchaser has come and inspected the property and looked at it.
Sorry.
I assume that the potential purchaser has come and looked at the property and
Yes.
inspected the property.
Yep.
Has there been some discussions with them about these issues? Graffiti is one thing. Obviously, I'm not a developer. I'd be a little bit concerned about buying development if somebody keeps breaking my windows. Because I'm not sure I want to put inside something, some kind of an antique car or something. If somebody
With
throw
all due respect, you're entitled to your opinion, but that's not what they're concerned about. They're not concerned about a broken window if they're in the construction business. They're looking at the TIF, the amount of money that's gonna come back to them. I mean, it's all the advantages. Right across the street, it was just about $4 million put into the new Life Works. Does anybody know what the Life Works, part of the CDC? That's a $5 million project by Gary Watkins and his group out of Litchfield. So, it's being improved. John Ridley improved. We need everybody to be working in the same direction to make that opposite of what you're saying. How are you gonna keep somebody from breaking windows? Improve the schools. Go across the track and go over and get all that trash out of all those neighborhoods where that's all. I mean, I don't see that being cleaned up, and it's right across the railroad tracks. And there's broken windows in all those houses. Almost every one of them. So,
Sir, let me ask you, how many times have you had to clean this building up due to this issue?
I don't know that I could be honest and truthful. Well, I'll tell you a funny story. One night after work, it was about 6:30, I'm down there and I'm spraying one of the things you can spray oven off. I don't know if you know that, but that oven cleaner, it's got lime and it takes it off. And a guy stops on the street and said, "Hey buddy, what are you doing? I've called the police on you." And I was in my farm clothes, and I said, and in my farm truck, and I said, "Well, what do you mean, what are you doing?" He said, "Well, I've called the police. You're down here spraying graffiti on the walls." I said, "No, sir, I'm trying to get it off." And once again, I get it all off, and the next week, somebody's just walking by and they spray a window. Now, a lot of these windows that you're seeing in here that have got opaque in there, but that's still a window. I mean, it doesn't match the one next to it, but it's a window. It's not plywood, it's a fiberglass window. It's just got an opaque color to it. Now, if I'm gonna start being fined because of the choice of window I put in there, then maybe there's a statute about that too. But it's closed up and secure, but there are some where a rock has been thrown and there's a crack in it. And as I said, I counted them today, and over 3,000, there's about 37, I think, totally broken or cracked. But
Have
6 months ago, there was none.
Have some of the ones you replaced with new panes then
Yeah,
been
yeah.
broken
I
out?
didn't bring those photographs, but the original, I first started out thinking I was gonna do all across the front of the building, I was gonna do all the originals, and I was doing them myself. Taking all the stuff out, planing, gonna do them all. Well, the glass at that time was about $25 a pane, because it's a bubbled, 1936, it was that. So I got as close as I could match. But yeah, I've done a bunch of them myself.
But have some of the new ones been subsequently
Oh,
broken?
yes, oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, the answer would be yes.
And so, you said somebody's looking to buy this. What is the time frame that you think?
Supposed to close in July.
Okay.
Was or is?
July of this year was supposed to close.
So now, where
Then
are we
it
looking
was
at now?
requirement by the financial institution to get a phase 2 study. Well, I already had a phase 1, but they wouldn't accept that. They wanted the same company. I said, well, call the company that I just had. The city hired them. They looked like that'd be the #1 But no, that didn't suit. And so they went to somebody else, and there's been every excuse from the guy that writes the report up. He's been in the, he's been to the doctor, and somebody had COVID, and it's just that, what you all have experienced in your business. I mean, it's just.
Mr. Dearborn, if I might make a couple clarifications as
Absolutely.
to Mr. Ridley, if you don't mind. So first and foremost, we are here hearing this case tonight because Mr. Ridley has requested an appearance before the board, not because we called him before the board. So he has appealed the citation. He keeps saying that we have called him here for this, but he is appealing the citation. The fact of the matter is that he is appealing whether or not the property was in violation when the citation was issued. That is what this board is here to hear, okay? I appreciate everything that Mr. Ridley has said. However, I don't believe that boarded windows and daisies from years and years ago have any bearing on whether or not the property was in violation at the time the citation was issued. We exhausted all attempts at voluntary compliance for, 4 months. This painting now has been done within the last, I don't know how many days, but very recently. Okay, so since Saturday, so 5 days, 6 days? So if it was able to be painted in 6 days, that's all we needed in that first 4 months. And so in that 4-month period, we exhausted all attempts at voluntary compliance. Now, if there was any sort of progress towards compliance during that 4-month period, we would have continued to extend the case. And so we are understanding that if there are broken windows here and there, that might come up. But there was no progress that we were able to discern in that 4 months. So the issue in front of the board is whether or not the property was in violation and if the citation was issued according to code and ordinance and was issued properly according to the law. Now, that being said, I also want to clarify some statements by Mr. Ridley as far as the arbitrary ordinance for graffiti. The ordinance is not arbitrary. It is very clear and specific as to the definition of what graffiti is, and if it is placed there with the permission of the owner or by the property owner, then it is okay. Mr. Ridley, by his own admission, did not place any of this graffiti, so that is why it is called graffiti. It is not an artistic interpretation. As he said of the water tower or any of the other murals that are painted around town, those are done by the owner or with the owner's permission, so they don't fall under the ordinance. There's no arbitrary enforcement of any sort of graffiti here and not graffiti there. This was not placed by Mr. Ridley by him or with his permission, so that is why it needs to be removed. And so, again, at issue is whether or not there was voluntary compliance or the citation was issued correctly by ordinance at the time that it was issued.
Apparently,
My name is Brad. Yes, sir.
Brad didn't listen to my presentation because when I took Heather's suggestion.
I've listened to every word of your
Oh,
presentation,
well,
sir.
and I stated in my presentation under oath that Heather recommended that I get a social group to do it.
Correct?
And that's exactly what I did.
Correct.
On the availability of the social group to do it.
Okay.
So your reference of that I waited 4 months to get it done just so of this appeal is wrong.
No, sir. I never said
Yes,
you
it
waited
is.
4 months. I said that for
Yes, you
4
did.
months, we did not have any progress.
Yeah.
We don't have any pictures of any progress for 4 months. Is that correct?
Is that part of the citation
No,
that
sir.
I have
Is
to
that
report
correct? For
back to
4
you all?
months? For 4 months, was there any progress
Yes, there
on the
was.
property?
Yes,
There
yes,
was.
there was.
Okay.
Yes, I used the oven off 2 or 3 times. I just told you about that.
Okay. No one has said that you voluntarily waited. What we are saying is that at a certain point, we have to issue a citation because there's no progress on the property.
Gentleman, since there are only men up there, I want you to hear what's going on. They're doing what the rule is. I don't have a problem with this. I told you I was in violation. What I'm saying is, you, at this juncture, you gentlemen are responsible to figure out how we can get this solved. Not this man getting upset with me because of he's following the
Not
rules
upset,
and
sir.
he wants to set an
I'm
example
answering your
of me.
questions. I'm
This
not
guy's
upset.
wanting to set an example of me.
Mr. Ridley, so after hearing you and after hearing Brad, so we are going strictly off of was there violation at that point? If I'm looking at it strictly from that, there was violation, so that's what we're voting on. Now, what happens after that, looking at changing policy or whatever, that can be done at a different time, but strictly if we're going off of what's going on right now, that's all we're going to vote on. And it's not a personal thing, it's not a what you did 5 years ago, what you did last year. This is strictly off of what the letter of the law is. So that's That's all we're going to vote on today. So with that, I make the motion to uphold the citation and the fine in the amount of $254.57.
A second.
Roll call.
Deere,
No.
Dearborn,
Yes.
Holman,
Yes.
LaPointe,
Yes.
Harmon.
Yes.
So that means you will have to pay the citation and the fine.
I would like to say thank you very much for at least hearing my plea. I do think there's a serious issue with this, and I think that if somebody doesn't do something, every citizen's gonna have the same problem. So that's very counterproductive for someone who wants to put money into the community.
And that's fair. And Mr. Childers is actually back there. So if you would like to have a conversation with him to discuss that, or Mr. Brad Sharkorodsky, feel free to let's have those conversations. So.
Well, I've been before this board several times making great suggestions, and they're ignored. So I thought, well, this time, this will be the last time I'm gonna deal with this building. I'm gonna get these things fixed so that you all don't cause this sale not to fall apart. But you're not incentivizing people to do what I've done to get a blighted city block in better shape. That's what you all not understanding. And I think you're passing the buck, quite frankly. So, anyway, thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, we will now move on to new business. Case number 2, case 2022-2766, 2443 Small House Road, owner respondent Golden Flower LLC, and Officer Sonia Dudarik. And this is a request for a per-day fine authorization.
Case number 2022-2766, it's 2443 Small House Road. It's a request for a per-day fine. This was a result of a complaint that was received to our office on 5/2 of 2022. The inspection was completed and following violations were observed. Accumulation of rubbish or garbage, road and harborage, and exterior use or storage of indoor furniture. On the inspection, an NOV was sent to PVA listed owner and an address with a reinspection date of 5/16 of 2022. On 5/18, it was reinspected and it remained in violation. I've called the owner of Golden Flower LLC, which is Richard Feldman, and he advised that Ron Cummings was managing that property for him. I called Ron Cummings, and he also told me that he will get property mowed and cleaned up. Actually, the tall grass was another case which has been taken care of since then. On 6/7, the property was reinspected. It continued to remain in violation. I've called Ron Cummings. He advised that he was unable to reach his tenant. Said he called hospitals, checked obituaries, and he was requesting more time. And reinspection was pushed back to 6/17 of 2022, which is 10 days after. Then it was reinspected and again it remained in violation. I spoke with Ron Cummings and he advised that then he will call police to do a check welfare since he's unable to reach his tenant. Also advised that the truck his tenant usually drives, it's not there, and the rent has not been paid in months. On 6/28, reinspection was done. It remained in violation. Ron Cummings said that he was able to locate his tenant who's staying with someone else, and has asked to relay a message to his tenant and tell him that if property's not cleaned up, they will dispose of all of the property that's outside. I advise him that I'll reinspect it again in 10 days. On 7/8 of 2022, I called Ron Cummings and advised him that if there's no progress on cleaning up by 7/12, the first citation will be issued. As you can see the picture, that's on June 7th inspection. There's a lot of stuff in the yard. The grass has been mowed. On 7/13, when I reinspected the property, it remained in violation with no attempts to clean up. The first citation was issued, posted on a property, and sent by first class and certified mail to PVA listed owner and an address. The Reinspection was listed at 725. On that citation, I included duty of maintenance of private property. On 726, the property was reinspected. It stayed the same with no cleanup. Ron Cummings sent a text advising they're in the process of eviction and they should know the court date by the end of the week. They are also planning to start cleanup as soon as the eviction is finalized. On 8/2, inspection was done and it remained in violation. Ron Cummings sent a text with the court date of 8/23 of 2022. On 8/24 of 2022, Ron Cummings advised the judge has delayed eviction due to tenant paying money for his rent and promising to clean it up. I advised him that I will reinspect it in 10 days, and if no major progress is made, second citation will be issued. On 9/7/2022, I reinspected the property. It remained in violation, stayed the same as it did day one. I issued a second citation with a reinspection listed on 9/19 of 2022. On 9/22, reinspected the property. It remained in violation, stayed the same. Another citation was issued, posted on property, and sent to the PVA listed owner. The compliance date was listed on citation as 10/3 of 2022. On 10/14, I received a phone call from Richard Feldman stating they have had a lot of it cleaned up and requested that I inspected the following week and let him know. Actually, on 10/17, I reinspected the property and majority of it has been cleaned up. There's still stuff on there that it remains in violation. Since then, I've spoke to Ron Cummings, who advised that they do have another eviction hearing on 8/4. But the property still remains in violation. Both the vehicles, inoperable vehicles, and as you can see the picture, the vehicles are there and there's still furniture and rubbish accumulation under the porch that needs to be cleaned up. The rest of the yard all of it has been cleaned up. The case has been open for 177 days.
All right, let's see.
So if I follow you, this property still is occupied? There is a tenant in it?
It's under lease, but there's no one staying in it. I have not made contact with anyone there every time I was there.
Is there anybody here for this case? All right. If not, then we can go ahead and vote on it. Does anyone want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to authorize and issue a per day fine citation in the amount of $100 to run for 60 days or until compliance.
Second.
All right, Lapointe and Harmon. Roll call?
Beer.
Yes.
Dearbone.
Yes.
Holman.
Yes.
Lapointe.
Yes.
Harmon.
Yes.
Next case, case number 3, case 2022-0270, 821 Winona, owner Jack Miller, officer Heather Lashley, and this is a request for a per-day fine authorization.
This case was the result of our proactive inspection on January 27, 2022. During the inspection, the following violations were observed: unlicensed inoperable motor vehicle, accumulation of construction, demolition, or landscape debris, exterior use or storage of indoor furniture, scattering garbage, tires, and accumulation of rubbish or garbage. A notice of violation was sent to the PVA listed owner and address on that date with a compliance reinspection date of February 7, 2022. Citations were issued on March the 25th, April the 5th, and April the 18th. At the July Code Enforcement and Nuisance Board hearing, a request was approved for per-day fines for this property, and a 100 per-day fine citation was issued on August 9th. It was posted on the property and sent by first class and certified mail to the PVA listed owner and address. The 60-day period has now lapsed and the property remains in violation. I'm requesting authorization to issue a second per-day fine citation. This case has been open for 270 days and remains in violation.
All right.
Is anybody living in this property? Do you know?
He does live there.
There is. And have you heard anything from the property owner?
No, I see him in town sometimes. He usually at dangerous intersections crossing in a motorized wheelchair, but those are really the only sightings that I see of Mr. Miller.
Then I'll make a motion to authorize the issuance of a per-day fine citation in the amount of $100 to run for a period of 60 days or until in compliance.
Second.
Deere and Holman, roll call.
Deere.
Yes.
Dearbone.
Yes.
Holman.
Yes.
LaPointe. Harmon.
Yes.
All right, now case number 4, case 2022-0155, 1004 Delafield Avenue, owner Mary C. Hunter, officer Heather Lashley, and this is a request for per-day fine authorization.
This case was the result of a proactive inspection on January 25th, 2022. During the inspection, the following violations were observed: tires and an unlicensed inoperable motor vehicle. A notice of violation was sent to the PVA listed owner and address on that date with the compliance reinspection date of February 4th, 2022. 3 citations were issued on March 17th, March 29th, and April the 11th. At the July Code Enforcement Nuisance Board hearing, a request was approved for per-day fines for this property, and a $100 per-day fine citation was issued on August the 9th, 2022. It was posted on the property and sent by first class and certified mail to the PVA listed owner and address. The 60-day period has now elapsed and the property remains in violation. I'm requesting authorization to issue a second per-day fine citation. And this case has been open for 270 days and remains in violation.
I'm going to go ahead and make that motion to authorize the issuance of a per-day fine citation in the amount of $100 to run for a period of 60 days or until in compliance.
Second.
Dearbone, LaPointe, roll call.
Deere.
Yes.
Dearbone.
Yes.
Holman.
Yes.
LaPointe.
Yes.
Harmon.
Yes.
All right, now case number 6, case 2022-0687, 1207 Fair Street, owner Aceland Holdings, officer Heather Lashley, and this is a request per-day fine authorization.
This case was the result of a complaint from an investigator with the Bowling Green Fire Department on February the 11th, 2022. During the inspection, the following violations were observed: accumulation of construction, demolition, or landscape debris, scattering garbage, tires, accumulation of rubbish or garbage, dilapidated structures, dangerous structure or premises, vacant structures and land, duty of maintenance of private property, damaged structure, additional building characteristics, vacant building not secured, and glazing. The property was issued citations on February 23rd, March 7th, and April 1st. At the June Code Enforcement and Nuisance Board hearing, a request was approved for per-day fines for this property, and a $100 per-day fine citation was issued July 18th. It was posted on the property and sent by first class and certified mail to the PVA listed owner and address. The 60-day period has now lapsed and property remains in violation. I'm requesting authorization to issue a second per-day fine citation, and this case has been open for 255 days and remains in violation.
Quick question, is this building habitable?
Not now, maybe later if they do a lot of work to it, but no.
Is this not the building that he came in and said he's going to knock it down? This isn't the same one?
Different building.
Have y'all considered condemnation of this one?
So at the, June hearing, if you see in the leftmost picture here, there was a shed. There were actually multiple fires at this location. There was one inside the main dwelling, there was one under the back porch, and then there was one at the shed. In addition to the per-day fine, the board had requested that we demolish the shed. And as we were going through the intent to demolish process, someone on behalf of the owner showed up and demolished the shed. So it was the mortgage company or someone, but we sent notification to a whole litany of folks, and someone showed up and demolished the shed and cleaned all that up. We have not been inside the house, to my knowledge. Is that correct, Heather? So we are not sure the extent of the fire, but from the exterior, it certainly appears that it is not habitable. And it might be a property that we intend to demolish as well, but we're trying to exhaust all voluntary compliance from the owner first.
I will go ahead and make the motion to authorize the issuance of a per-day fine citation in the amount of $100 to run for a period of 60 days or until in compliance.
I'll second that.
All right. Dearbone and Harmon, roll call.
Here.
Yes.
Dearbone.
Yes.
Holman.
Yes.
LaPointe.
Yes.
Harmon.
Yes.
All right, case number 7, 2022-5134, 1500 North Sunrise Drive, owner Aceland Holdings, Officer Heather Lashley. This is a request for per-day fine authorization.
This case was the result of a proactive inspection on July the 29th, 2022. During the inspection, the following violations were observed: basement hatchways, protective treatment, exterior walls, unlicensed, inoperable motor vehicle, duty of maintenance of private property, dilapidated structures, and parking in yards. A notice of violation was sent to the PVA-listed owner and address on that date with a compliance reinspection date of August 18, 2022. On August 19th, the property was reinspected and remained in violation. On August 30th, the property was reinspected and remained in violation. I left a door hanger asking the property owner to correct the code violations. On September the 2nd, 2022, the property was reinspected and remained in violation. A citation was issued and posted on the property as well as sent by first class and certified mail to the PVA listed owner and address. The compliance reinspection date listed on the citation was September 12, 2022. On September 14, 2022, the property was reinspected and remained in violation. A citation was issued and posted on the property as well as sent by first class and certified mail to the PVA listed owner and address. The compliance reinspection date listed on the citation was September 26, 2022. On September 28, 2022, the property was reinspected and remained in violation. A citation was issued and posted on the property as well as sent by first class and certified mail to the PVA listed owner and address. The compliance reinspection date listed on the citation was October the 10th, 2022. And this case has been open for 87 days and remains in violation. And I might point out, this is the same owner as the house that we had previously, just a second ago.
I guess I'll go ahead and make a motion to authorize issuance of a per-day citation in the amount of $100 to run for a period of 60 days or until in compliance.
Second.
Dearbone, LaPointe, roll call.
Here.
Yes.
Dearbone.
Yes.
Holman.
Yes.
LaPointe.
Yes.
Harmon.
Yes.
Case number 8, case 2022-4492, 1402 High Street, owner Burrell Properties LLC, Officer Bradshaw Gorodsky. This is a request for a per-day fine authorization.
This case is the result of a proactive inspection that was July 7th of this year. During the inspection, noted the following violations: inoperable and unlicensed vehicles, improperly parked or stored vehicles, and tires stored outdoor on the property. A notice of violation was sent to the PVA listed owner and address on that date with a compliance reinspection date of the 18th of July of this year. On the 20th of July, I texted the owner photos of the property and asked him to work on improving the violations. Did so again on the 3rd of August, and there had still been no progress or communication from the owner. On the 12th, I left a door tag, the 12th of August, I left a door tag at the property. During this time, I observed that there was accumulated trash, scattered garbage, standing water, unsanitary conditions, and a bad odor coming from the dwelling. I noted on the door tag that they needed to bring the property into compliance. It was the last warning to avoid a citation or fine. At this time, I also texted the property owner, letting him know that I left the door tag and the presence of the trash, the odors, etc., and suggested that he visit the property directly to see the poor condition himself to work on compliance. On the 31st of August, there was still no voluntary compliance or communication from the owner or tenants. A citation was issued and posted on the property, as well as sent by first class and certified mail to the PVA listed owner and address. The compliance reinspection date was the 12th of September. As you see on the pictures here, there are two inoperable vehicles, one in a state of major disrepair or disassembly that's also stored on the front yard. And there are tires and trash. There's another vehicle that's up on ramps and is inoperable. This is a closer picture of the front of the house of standing water in a skillet in a box and scattered garbage. You can see here that there's additional scattered garbage on the other side of the house in both vehicles. On the 14th of September, the property was re-inspected and remained in violation. Of the two inoperable vehicles, one was removed, but the one stored on the grass in a state of disassembly remained on the property. Second citation was issued and posted on the property, as well as sent by first class and certified mail to the PVA listed owner and address with the compliance reinspection date of the 26th of September. These pictures are from that second citation. That same vehicle is still there on the grass. You can see there's additional trash scattered throughout the front yard. There are some pictures of the backyard here with bags of trash, junk, and accumulated rubbish in the backyard. On the 30th of September, the property was re-inspected and remained in violation. A citation was issued and posted on the property, as well as sent by first class and certified mail to the PVA listed owner and address. And the compliance re-inspection date on that was the 10th of this month. These are pictures of the third posted citation. You can see an additional tire has shown up somehow, and there's more trash there, as well as the vehicle still parked on the yard. Tarps, the pot in the box with the water is still there. On the 3rd of this month, the Code Compliance Office received a complaint about this property from the Bowling Green Police Department, Officer Davidson, who stated that he was dispatched to check on the welfare of animals in the house, and neighbors were complaining about trash and bad owners from the property. He stated that he noticed several code violations and wanted to pass them along. On that same day, Monday the 3rd, Animal Control Officer Hudson responded to the location to check on the animals and did note that the second inoperable vehicle had been removed. However, she found large piles of trash accumulated on the property around the structure. On the 11th of this month, the property owner texted to say that he would have the inoperable vehicles towed off by the end of the day, apparently unaware that they were already gone at that point. I took the opportunity to explain the problems with the trash, sanitation, odors, and complaints about sanitation, and he said he would get it taken care of that day. On the 14th of October, I re-inspected and documented the trash, sanitation issues, odors, and other ongoing violations. Again, texting the property owner, he said that someone had been there the same day and was supposed to have cleaned it up, but it was not cleaned up. Again, on the 24th of this month, the property owner texted to say that all trash would be cleaned off the property by the end of the day, and it was not. So here are current pictures. The case has been open 111 days today. Both vehicles have been removed, so there is progress there, and some of the tires and issues on the front of the house have been cleaned up. However, as you see through the fence here and this picture, that is the back and side yard of the property. So this is the piled trash, standing water, more tires, junk, so on and so forth. Here's the backyard from the alley. There appear to be milk jugs full of just curdled milk, bags of trash, accumulated junk. It should be noted that earlier today, I informed the property owner I was bringing this case before the board for issuance of per day fines. He stated that he sent someone over to attempt to clean up the backyard and the trash, and the current tenant threatened to release their dogs in order to harm him if he stepped foot on the property, so of course he left. They have since, or he has said that he is starting eviction proceedings. I've asked him for any sort of documentation to prove that, and he said that he is working on that. Regardless, I'm still requesting per day fines. I may not issue the citation if they are able to either produce the eviction paperwork and work towards compliance, that's fine, but I'd rather not wait till the November hearing and go another 30 days with the property in this condition.
I'll make a motion to authorize the issuance of per-day fine citation in the amount of 100 to run for a period of 60 days or until in compliance.
Second?
Deere, Lapointe, roll call.
Deere. Dearbone.
Yes.
Holman.
Yes.
Lapointe.
Yes.
Harmon.
Yes.
Case number 9, this is owner Shub La Property LLC, Officer Brad Shark Godorowski, and this is a request for repeat offender designation.
So a quick primer again on the repeat offender designation for not only the board but the public. Again, we bring a property in front of the board, a property owner in front of the board, whether it be a single owner, an owner of a single property or an LLC of multiple properties. The board then determines the repeat offender status. If designated a repeat offender, the board must set a time limit between 12 and 24 months, and then an amount that each citation will be, anywhere between $1,200 and $2,400. In order to be designated a repeat offender, the person or LLC must meet one of the 3. In this case, the one I'm bringing to you tonight meets all 3. Category A means that they have been issued a 4th citation for any violations of property code involving any of their properties within a 2-year period. Category B is that they've issued a 3rd citation within a 12-month period. And Category C is that they've been issued a 2nd citation for a violation and they have outstanding remedy charges or citation fines and fees. Again, the penalties for a repeat offender is that no prior notice or contact needs to be made before issuance of a citation. We may cite them immediately upon observing any sort of violation. We can also institute a program of regular inspections of their properties, and we can inspect them without first receiving a complaint. The property owner in question here, again, is Shubalaba Property, Inc. This property owner specifically owns 1615 US 31W Bypass here in Bowling Green, and they qualify for A, B, and C categories. They've had 6 citations that qualify them for categories A and B. Those were in April, July, and September of last year, and then May, July, and September of this year. We've had a total of 18 code compliance cases in the last 5 years, and there have been 12 citations or work orders in the last 5 years. Additionally, in addition to their 2nd citation, they have outstanding citation fees, fines, or remedy charges of $1,731.48. So requesting that they be designated as a repeat offender for future citations.
Brad, is this the first time this person has come before us as a repeat offender?
Yes, sir, it is.
Okay. Have they qualified before this time?
Not to my knowledge. This is the old gas station there at the corner of Meredith and the bypass. Right now it's nothing but grass because of the tornado, and it caused a lot of damage to the neighboring apartments there. Prior to the tornado, we had to board it up because there were homeless individuals living in the gas station, but primarily we've had to mow it every couple weeks all throughout the summer. The grass gets between 3 and 4 feet tall, so now that the building itself is gone, it's just us maintaining the property, cleaning up the trash, and constantly mowing it.
Brad, does the $1,700 figure, is that fines and fees and work order amounts too, or is that just fines and fees?
So that's fines, fees, and work orders.
Okay.
And has the owner had been in any kind of communication at all?
Oh, and we have, as
8 addresses.
As Pam will attest, we have found 8 addresses that we have tried to contact them, some in Bowling Green, most in Somerset. We have sent certified and regular mail to all of those about tonight's hearing and about all of the citations and fines, and certified to a couple of them as well. Furthermore, we then did some research based on the person's name that Secretary of State says that this LLC belongs to, and found apparently an unassociated individual with the same unique name in Bowling Green who, once he got the letter, responded and said, that's not me and I'd never heard of that and I don't know anything about it. So we checked that box off. But finance has also been trying to do some history as to who's paying property taxes. They've been looking up phone numbers. Nobody seems to be able to track anyone down, and I don't know if they've just abandoned the property or what, but we're certainly trying.
I'll make a motion to designate the property owner as a repeat offender and set a future citation amount of $1,200 for 24 months.
I'll second that.
Point and Harmon. Roll call.
Deere.
Yes.
Dearbone.
Yes.
Holman.
Yes.
LaPointe.
Yes.
Harmon.
Yes.
All right, we will now move to the comments and announcements section. Brad and Brent.
I believe that there's a member of the public here. I'm not sure if you'd rather hear his comments first before ours, or?
First name?
No, I got a phone call saying that he contacted me, just after I let the Allen Simpson Law Firm go, and said that I needed to pay for a sign I had in my window that I need to pay a fee. Okay, I contacted him, but Mr. Williams could not give me an address of location. All right, he hung up on me twice. All right, I called back the 3,000 number, and I asked him to patch me through, and I said, well, you know, I had a message on my phone that I needed to contact the code enforcement and that I was in violation, that I needed to pay for a permit for a sign. So I asked him what location that was, and he could not give me an address. So I said, look, I'm trying to handle this situation. If you give me an address, I can handle it. He hung up on me twice. I called the city to patch me through. I told him what happened. And when he answered the phone the third time, I didn't even recognize him. Because I said, you know, some guy, I don't know why he hung up on me, can't give me an address. So my last address, the location was knocked out by the tornado. So I told him that I would come in the morning, this was about 2 months ago, and I said, being that you are the inspector, or the inspector, or whatever you want to call yourself, before I come in the morning, I want you to go to that location and take a picture of the location that you got me attached to. And that location, is completely gone. They're rebuilding it now. So I don't know why this Mr. Williams contacted me, harassing me. I can look back at the number and get his voicemail.
I was going to ask if you have the number, because we don't have anyone, to my knowledge, named Williams.
Just after that, I get a animal control lady to pull up on me about cause of wreck, and I filed a complaint down here. You probably got it, and I sent the video where she about got rear-ended. Okay? She about got rear-ended, and pardon my French, but this is what she said. She told me to get the damn horse off the sidewalk. Okay?
So you had a horse on the sidewalk.
No. That's what she said.
Okay.
Okay, so don't be changing my words, Mr.
I was asking you a question. I didn't change any words. I asked you a question.
That's all I'm asking.
Okay?
She pulled up on me about causing a wreck in the road, telling me I can't do something. And is it not complaint driven?
I'm-
Is it not complaint driven? Nobody complained. Nobody complained but her. So I sent her on her way, okay? And I recorded it because I said, you know, well, go ahead. You're being recorded, keep talking shit. And she moved on down the road. All right, I heard, she said, you know what, I'm going to the next call, but I'll be back. No, you won't. All right, my name is Daniel hyphen Wayne, full colon Johnson, a UN sovereign, okay, the beneficiary. So, if this board has a problem with me or anything going on, if I'm in any citation, okay, then we can address it today. If not, you know your jurisdiction.
Good news is, we don't have anything on you today. I think I saw you earlier at the courthouse today. We talked a few minutes over the clerk's office.
Are you the one with the Broadway?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
We had a nice conversation.
Right, I've been in this town for years. I had the first hemp store and I got Louis V. Nunn involved in industrial hemp. We got hemp illegal back in 1999.
Next time you talk to Alan, you tell Alan to call me.
I don't talk to Alan. I fired Alan Simpson's law firm because he wasn't, after 3 years of extended my elbow. All right, I couldn't pick up a jug of milk for a month, and they messed up my shoulder. When I left, it was $6,750 later, okay?
First of all, thank you for your service. Let me tell you this, why don't you do this? We've got to close our meeting out,
Well, but the
but I'll be
citation-
glad to talk to you about it.
Well, the citation, when the officer got my license, he couldn't even put my proper address on the citation. And for 3 years, Alan Simpson couldn't figure out my address. So I fired him, cream of the crop, because lack of communication, and definitely wasn't looking for my best interest. So I'm,
Well, the good news, you're good with us.
well, I'm glad that the city is beautiful, but I wish that instead of imposing fines, that you would help these people, because the people that are needing the help don't have the money. Okay, the people that need the help the most don't have the money, and I guarantee you, I don't know how much money y'all got in y'all's pocket, your bank account, but I'm sure you couldn't afford about $100 fine a day, and you wouldn't want it. So instead of imposing fines, why don't we try to help these people out instead of going in and using Kentucky Revised statutes to take their property? Okay? Because I'm sure if they had the money to pay for getting the stuff fixed, they would. But a lot of them, they don't. And these are hard times, and it's getting harder. So, hard times are getting harder, makes y'all's job easier because the citation's gonna add up. And I don't understand about what a proactive inspection is when you own private property. I don't know what private property means, and I guarantee you we could go into the Black Law Dictionary and we could find out exactly what private property is, okay? And we could probably find out what jurisdiction is, and an entity, corporated. So, that being said, God bless y'all, and it's good to be a man with a living, breathing soul, the only living entity, or the living man in this room. God bless y'all.
Just well, have a good night, sir.
My request is, some of y'all should go back and look at your old meetings, because I guarantee you wouldn't want your church members to see that. You swear to tell the truth, whole truth, nothing but truth. Good, why? What y'all doing? So, God bless you, but I suggest that when you blow up, you look at yourself on TV, all right? It makes you look a lot shorter and a lot wider. God bless you.
I tried, Bill. Failed miserably.
You did well. You did well. You did well. And with that, we will, if you can be nearly as entertaining, go for it.
I cannot be nearly as entertaining. I promise you that. Even my best, I cannot be that entertaining. Mo, come here for a second. So I think many of you have heard, but Mo has decided to take another position. But she's not just taking another position, she's taking all the talents and the knowledge and the experience that we've trusted with her, and she's trusted with us over the last 7 years with us. And then the total city time was 2000, I'm going off memory, 2006?
In February, it would be 18 years.
There you go, 18 years of the city. But she's taking all that to really go develop a code program for the city of Franklin in Simpson County. And so we're excited for Mo to spend her time with us. She's become a friend. We've had a lot of years working through cases, working through problems, working through issues, and now to see her go off and start and invest and put seeds down for another community to make improvements and make change for a community that is also growing and dynamic community. And so we're just so proud. And so on behalf of the citizens of Bowling Green and our department, I want to thank you for your many years of service to the code enforcement community. I'm sorry, code compliance and animal protection. Brad is always correcting me on the name change. I've got too many years here backed up. So thank you, Mo. I appreciate it.
Have anything you want to say, Mo?
It's been an honor to work for the city of Bowling Green. It really has. I started in here in '06. I came in as a parks maintainer, and I went to school, and I was told by nobody around here, they'll never take you serious, they're never gonna promote you, you're just a maintainer. But here, and I think it's phenomenal how much I've learned, and actually how much I've grown personally. I find that after getting cussed at almost every day, you just can stay a whole lot calmer when you just have to. So, no, I've grown a lot. I've made some extremely special friends. So, all of y'all, but she wins. And thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mo.
Absolutely.
We
Thank
wish
you.
you the best. Good luck.
Compliance officer, we're hiring.
So anybody watching, we are hiring.
I tried to recruit at the ACE conference.
This would not be the night to watch the video.
Yeah. All right, so with that, our next hearing date is Tuesday, November 22nd. I will call for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Deere and LaPointe. Roll call.
Deere,
Yes.
Dearbone,
Yes,
Holman,
Yes.
LaPointe,
Yes.
Harmon.
Yes.
we are adjourned.